Здравствуйте, and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. Oh, Boje, here we go.
Jonathan Byer, there has been some gigantic news in figure skating since we last recorded. Ashley Wagner is using La La Land. Can you believe it?
You had me there. I was really ready to go in, and I was like, "Oh, we're starting with La La Land. Okay,
Yeah.
all right."
No, obviously, we'll get to that, but let's start with the important thing. Earlier today, the IOC announced that it is barring Russia as an official country from the Olympic Games, although its athletes will be able to compete as neutral athletes if they petition to be able to compete there. Already, the fireworks in Russia, outside of Russia, have been going absolutely crazy. This happened at 1:30 Eastern time in the U.S. And I'm very curious what your initial reactions are, and let's kind of go through what that would mean. So what is your understanding of what neutral status means? Because they were saying individuals and not teams, and things are, flown.
Well, in the specific wording, it said that individuals and teams. Like, what's so interesting is figure skating specifically had so many questions. Mm-hmm. So I thought a fun way to dive into our questions would be to be with the help of this little lady here.
Your Matryoshka.
Yeah. I don't travel with this, by the way. This is just in the subletted apartment.
Is her name Tatiana?
It is now. Okay. So we're just going to open up our first doll here. And my first question is about the team event.
Yes.
So the team event, there was a question about how the ISU will handle this, as I believe this particular aspect is an ISU issue. Because if these athletes are able to compete as individuals under a neutral country, of course, in order to enter the team event, your nation has had to, through world rankings and status, had to qualify, which is why Kazakhstan is not competing in the team event. So it's a bit tricky. Some people were like, well, what's going to happen? To me, it seems like an easy fix. The ISU has a very easy opportunity to say, yes, we'll just transfer that and we'll let this neutral team be what would have been the Russia team.
Do you trust the ISU to do that?
Yes, because I think the ISU will bend to what is best for skating and the Russian Federation.
I think that they will absolutely allow the Russian Federation to compete as a team if they're the ISU. Of course.
It serve everyone's best interest to have it be that way.
Do you remember when the Russians were caught cheating in Salt Lake and they only investigated the Canadian and the French side and they never looked at the Russian side? And they banned the people that were the whistleblowers? This is the ISU.
Yeah.
Also, remember the toe-tapping judges at the 99 Worlds from Russia and Ukraine? They were allowed back in as well.
That was pairs, yeah. Always pairs, interesting. But with the team event, like, if Canada then won, again, this team event on a technicality because the Russians
Wait.
Olympic athletes from Russia, that's what they're calling
Canada would not care if they won it on technicality. They would think that it is retribution for everything that the Russian Federation has done to them over the years.
Okay.
And they would have a point.
But
it would also feel like an empty victory at the same time.
Yeah, I mean...
There are opposing truths. Have you ever done dialectical behavioral therapy? You're not that crazy. All right, so let me tell you about it. All right.
I've done a really tough ear training course. Okay.
So these are things that are called two opposing thoughts that are both true. The Olympics will feel empty and hollow. The victories will feel hollow if the Russians are not there. One truth. Opposing truth. The Russians have cheated egregiously and need to be punished in some way. Also true. It's, it's the kind of things people were not understanding about when we were talking about the athletes. Now you move to a third truth, is that the athletes are somewhat innocent, somewhat pawns. I don't think that they're acting for themselves. People throw the word 18 around, but then I was even reading Ali Raisman's book and having a big conversation about this, about is an 18-year-old gymnast who exists in a fear-based culture really a full-grown adult and as cognizant of their own actions? And I don't
they're very
believe
sheltered, and they're very stunted in many ways as a result of that sheltered lifestyle.
And you do what's handed to you your whole life is brought to this. So I think I have many thoughts, but yeah, are they going to announce the gold medal to the neutral team? People have thought
probably.
Yeah, this was, if you go back to the 1992, because of Russia, the Soviet Union, separating into its republics, they competed as a unified team. That was not as a sort of punishment in any way.
That was situational. It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't a punishment, like you said. Yeah.
So I think that it would be strange, and because to me, if a country like Russia is being punished by the IOC, if you're Evgenia Medvedeva, Aliona Savchenko, sorry, we know where you're from. So if you are, you may not have the Russian flag, but it's going to be referenced constantly. We're going to know that you're Russian. We know who you're representing.
Bad optics. Yeah,
it's optics and semantics, but it's, to me, like, yes, it's all how it's spun too, because it didn't feel like NBC. It feels like NBC wants the Russians there, obviously, because for the drama and the theatrics and the ratings. And,
of course.
So if they're not there, that's interesting. Now, if they're not there, the Americans may win more medals, which could also be good for NBC, because NBC is in the business of showing Americans winning. Now, ideally, they would love to show Americans beating Russians, which is why the Olympic movement.
With that. Well, enjoy dance. Yeah. Okay.
Which is why the Olympic movement is so popular and so many movement, during the Cold War. This is why the advertising revenues are what they are. But I think, and why you have the Goodwill Games. But when you look at this, I think if someone is from a team, and we know that you're Russian, and maybe it's what is it going to be, a white flag, or what are we going to?
I would assume just based on the white flag with the Olympic rings, like they did previously, and the anthem.
Although, does that seem like a punishment flag to you? You're like more upholding of the Olympic ideals that way.
Well, it does seem, like suddenly you're an ambassador for what the Olympics mean, when it actually, it's not. It couldn't be farther from the truth.
Yeah. So, to me, it just seems like if you're competing and maybe you don't hear the Russian anthem, it's almost, while people will say it's horrible and that you don't get to represent your country, there would be so much fanfare and support from you back home, and you'd be sent there on such a mission to make a statement. You'd probably get a second Olympic ceremony when you get home and wind up being much more famous and much more well-known.
Here's an interesting thing. So we're filming this on December 5th. Mm-hmm. Putin is supposed to make his comment about it tomorrow, the 6th.
Sure.
And then the Russian Federation said that they are going to make an announcement after the Grand Prix final on the 10th.
Yes.
So we kind of touched this issue about boycotting in a very different situation when athletes were talking about it in 2014 because of Russia's treatment of gay people and that new gay law.
No one boycotted, basically.
No one did. Yeah. And if they had, we know that would not have changed Russia's viewpoint. But when we were talking about that, I thought, if you want to make a statement about gay pride, the point would be to send all your gay athletes and let them win. So here,
which is why he sent Brian Boitano in the delegation. It was supposed to be kind of...
It was a whole thing, kind of. But in this instance, one has to wonder, they've been reprimanded, they've been scolded, they've been embarrassed.
Not really.
In a way that by saying, okay, they can come, but...
it's kind of like the Trump playbook. Like, even if he were to get kicked out of office, he would never admit culpability. He would say it was a scam against him. He would not run again or leave office, say, screw you. And it seems like that's what the Russians will do here. They will never admit that there was...
No, but the question is then, do you make a stronger statement by boycotting and saying we're not playing a bunch of games with you then?
Well, it feels like they might boycott because it was so quick on social media that all of the power players in Russia and Tatiana Tarasova saying, the death of our national sport. The memes were coming out about no Russia, no Olympics.
No, yeah, exactly.
So
well, but my thing is,
feels like they will boycott.
Would you not have more national pride as a... It's a question I'm asking. If you then sent your team, and it doesn't even matter what flag or anthem is played, your athletes are still winning. If Medvedeva or Zagitova go as a neutral, representative, and they're still first and second...
They're still Russian. That's still Russia first and second, to me.
Yeah, and it still shows you, like, take away the flag, take away our anthem, we still got the best.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting sort of thing to look.
You're Russian, but I do feel for the athletes in one sense, because I do feel for the athletes. That's not in one sense. I do feel for the athletes. I think that they are pawns, but I think that they've been pawns on this all along. So I feel bad that Medvedeva was there to speak today as a young girl. Things so much bigger than her. Yeah.
It felt icky. She's a beautiful young girl, an amazing talent. She's trying to rest her foot. You see it on her face. She's a little uncomfortable. And then all these headlines, the New York Times headline was very deceptive when it was like Russia banned, it was, and then,
yeah.
And then she was quoted as being like, not even sure if she wants to go to the Olympics. But the whole point is she was stalling because, of course, inevitably someone like her will be told.
Yes.
What to do,
and the reporters are asking questions that you cannot answer. This is so much bigger than you.
Answer, her coach is in Asia somewhere, like. So,
and I think that there will be such a fervor in Russia that say that they did boycott. I think they would all feel so valiant that we're boycotting, and how dare they embarrass us. And I'm just
maybe the powers that be. I find it hard that these young women. Would in the short term. So yeah. I've read a lot and spoken to athletes who boycotted in 1980 on the U.S. side, and then I've read a lot about the athletes who boycotted in 1984 from the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union had an alternate Olympic Games in 1984 called Olympic, and with the other Eastern Bloc countries at that time. And the one thing, Olga Mastopanova, I believe it was, or was either Natalia or Yanko, one of them, but they said that they didn't understand at the time what boycotting the Olympics even meant and what it meant in their lives until so much later. That it took so many years to really even feel like they lost something. And I do feel, for those athletes, something. Now, that was about wars and geopolitical things. This is a little bit different because it is about sport, but at the same time, what Russia did with the lab in Sochi is so just like crossing the line, so... And Dave, that's why you're, a lot of the things we're seeing, a lot of the outcry, and again, I don't mean to misspeak because we're still getting so much information every day about all of these sorts of things. All of these arguments leave politics out of sports.
Well, they're completely in sports. It's what they're about, actually.
This isn't what was happening in the 80s where political differences were the result of a sporting situation. This is exact involvement of someone's politics in the sport itself, in the games. It is 100% affected in these Olympics. It's not some... we come from two different places with different political views and we cannot put them aside in order to compete at the Olympics. This is, you tainted the Olympics, and there's proof. It's not speculation. No, it is not proof that these specific athletes have had the problem, but that's why they are meeting halfway and saying, but they can still come.
So to me, it's not just the Russians that have tainted the Olympics. Now we have to go back, and it's not just this instance that's tainted the Olympics.
Of course.
This has been a growing thing that's been happening more and more and more. Now they were judging things back in the '68 Olympics between Russia and Czechoslovakia, and there, gymnastics things when a Soviet gymnast's score got, boosted, and Vera Česlaska of the Czech Republic was on the podium, and she turned her head down, and then she was disgraced in her country and everything like that. But we see over time that there has been more and more cheating going on in the Olympics. There's more and more doping going on as science is advancing. And it happens, Marion Jones, we see it happen. We see it happen all over in track and field. And where it seems like, yes, you are the champion now until 8 years from now when we find out that you are, you were lying and you were cheating. And then we see it happen with Lance Armstrong, and we see these governing bodies really covering it up. And I think the thing about the Olympics is I feel that we're at a critical moment. And I think that something needs to happen to Russia, not just because of Russia, but I really think that it's time that the IOC, the ISU, all of these governing bodies say, we're not going to stand for this. We are going to do what is necessary if you want to have clean sport. If you don't want to have clean sport, I think we should stop pretending that there's clean sport and stop maybe only partially administering the rules to certain people, because I think that that's a whole other thing. But I think when you allow, age falsification for years. We know that for years in sports, there's been age falsifications by Russia, by Romania, by China. There have been Americans that have pondered it and not been able to really get the documents in a row based on how our system is. But if people could get away with it, they absolutely would. But what we've seen is that, yes, a medal got taken away from a team in 2000, but it was really kind of a quid pro quo so that the 2008 Olympics went off. Right. And that wasn't a major embarrassment to China. We see that they're starting to look into some Chinese doping. Now, speaking of figure skaters, they say that when they go to drug testing, there are some athletes that have won medals that never do the drug testing. It's like, oh, how come that star didn't have to come through? They won a medal, and it's not always enforced consistently. Why do some athletes never compete outside of Russia or the Moldovan ornament when they make their comebacks? And you wonder, because perhaps this is for show, and perhaps so it's like it's not consistently applied. And I think that if you're going to kick people out for cheating, you need to do it strongly. You need to kick the judges out. It's all of this that we keep like punting the decisions down. I feel like they had enough evidence a year and a half ago in Rio to ban Russia for the next 4 Olympics if they wanted to, but they didn't. And I think that's what's really troubling to me. I don't know. That was a rant. I'm sorry, John.
No, it's good. I'm like listening. I'm like, yes. I mean, and also now in skating, it's interesting what these kinds of drugs can do. Mm-hmm. It's a little clearer, perhaps, in track and field, how they directly apply. In skating, it's more so that it's buying you better training time. Would you agree with that? It's not necessarily just suddenly something has increased and now your jump is bigger. It gives you more stamina, gives you more endurance, so you are actually able to be more trained than everyone else because you have superhuman qualities.
So one of the things that was always pointed out to me is that if you look at the Russian athletes who competed in Sochi, they were peaked and the strongest they have ever been. Now, they weren't taking steroids that were going to make them knock out Rocky Balboa.
Super muscular, exactly.
But a lot of them were able to train. They were able to train through inflammation and train through the normal wear and tear to reach a higher level. Now, there are consequences for that. And if you notice, look at the Russian Olympic team in the 2014 in Sochi. Look at them by the next season at 2015. How many were injured? How many were not at the same level? How many were unable to compete? How many shoulder surgeries did you see in pairs from all of the throws and lifts?
Knee surgeries and dance. It was a whole bunch of things. Mm-hmm. And it's tricky. A lot was shown with Elizaveta. Mm-hmm. You said all season that year. How is this humanly possible? Mm-hmm. How is she competing and winning every single weekend?
Now, that was legal. Now, maybe...
she was not at fault.
It was legal, but perhaps ethically questionable, I would say. If
she had not done anything wrong.
She had not taken anything wrong. Now, I think you have to look at, is it the right decision physically as an athlete? You're taking a risk. And I think that her career, I think that her body suffered from that. I think you would have to look at.
And then, it's interesting, all these comments, underneath like now a Chukchimisheva result where they're like, what happened? And we're like, well, you know what happened.
Her body got burned out, literally. Yeah.
And this happens in singing when people have to face, am I going to sing through a performance on something like prednisone or like some steroid that gives you a false sense of security? and it lets you get through it. But you do that too much, you are creating irreversible damage.
Yeah. And I think another thing is where these athletes train is such an interesting thing too, because when you are an athlete, and I was talking to Fleur Maxwell about this, and she was telling me, well, Dave, I'm from Luxembourg. I am at no risk of winning any medals, right? She said, if I am training here, it's up to USADA to drug test me on behalf of another country. Now, she said, if I were Plushenko training here, they would absolutely be drug testing me. But because USADA would then have to spend money to drug test her, athletes like that are tested very infrequently. So she said, if I wanted to, I could be taking whatever I wanted to. And a lot of the athletes, you'll see, athletes do take things here. I mean, we've heard, I live near a training center, you hear all sorts of stories about things that are just out in the open.
Available should one choose to take advantage of them. Yeah. Even from coaches that we know.
Coaches. Money's also funneled, by the way, for results and everything. If anything, the cheating is worse than it was under the 6-0. And during the anonymous cheating, during the anonymous judging especially, I think, I think you have to look at that there's the human growth hormone. The fact that there is no blood test.
And you cannot test that through these urine tests.
Yeah. So they would have to do a blood test for it, which people aren't paying for. And you start to see, but Simone Biles made it sound on Twitter like she may have been blood tested the other day. Now, remember, Simone Biles was someone that when the Russian hackers went into the system, that is how it came out in the public that she had a therapeutic exemption for Adderall. Now, if they wanted to, they could have everyone an Adderall. And there's certain things about what's medically necessary.
So they should just super pay attention?
Well, I mean, I'm someone that's been on these medications. If you're someone like me who's a little all over the place, you take Adderall, it could make you very focused. But
during competition or just in training, you would think?
Training.
But that's about a mental game, not a physical game.
These sports are mental as much as they are physical, perhaps more. The thing is, if I were to take Adderall, it would make me feel perhaps normal on a certain dose level, a therapeutic dose.
But mentally, you're saying,
yes.
I don't mean to misspeak about that, but I mean it's not doing something.
It's not doing something physical. Yeah. Now the interesting thing is that it's an appetite suppressant, and when all of these things,
Adderall, okay, got it.
When these sports are about strength to weight ratio, this would be something that would be perhaps beneficial if someone wanted to maintain to be able to train like that. Now that's another side effect you're talking about,
but speaking of the judging,
yes.
but I don't mean to take you away from but then it's also a question that arose in our conversations is what happens now to Russian tech panelists, judges, all these sorts of things, and as best we can understand, they are not represented by the Russian Olympic Committee, the NOC or whatever. So they are not banned as they are run through the ISU and the Skating Federation. So it would seem that we will still have the normal Russian judges and tech panelists there.
And Russian judges who live in Moscow and judge for Ukraine and Belarus and Azerbaijan and Israel and so on and so forth. Yes.
It's unified judging team.
Yes.
Yeah.
If only North America could get along,
which no. We're just too big.
We can't get along with Canada about anything. We can't.
Right. We need that Mexican judge that was so kind to Nathan Chen the other day. But so that's where we think things will be landing with the. So the first question was mainly how does this affect the team event? I believe ISU will just have to clarify that they're going to accept the neutral team as the Russian credentials, and that the judging is still ready to go. Now, a question also showed up, speaking of meldonium, about our friend Bobrova, Miss Ekaterina.
Because the ISU kowtowed after she tested positive, and then months later
said, whoops, just kidding, I guess it's fine.
I guess it's fine. We didn't let you compete at Worlds, but it's fine.
Yeah, we're sorry. You can come back.
She would be able to compete there.
Yes, because they dropped it because it was in that gray area time period and it was a small enough dosage, so she was cleared.
Although if you hear the real story on that, it's far more interesting. So,
yeah, but as Wikipedia reports it,
yes.
So, but on paper,
yeah,
I don't see that standing in her way of.
No, I think she'll be able to. The other interesting one is that originally in the McLaren Report, they spoke about a Russian figure skater who won a gold and silver medal at the Olympics, and the only person who meets that criteria would be either Stobova or Klima, and that has never really come out. So Nikova was cleared with the whole scratches on the
urine sample.
On the urine samples.
God,
I have her urine right here, everyone.
Oh!
Tastes great.
Okay.
Little.
I don't taste any performing
I don't taste any
enhancing
added
drugs.
salt. What are you talking about? No. But that's never really come out. I don't know if that was just forgotten or a misprint or.
Right. It was never further investigated.
Yeah. Medvedeva also said that she may not compete beyond Pyeongchang, which I think if she wins the Olympics, I thought she would go off to shows and infamy and living a superstar life. I also think there's another girl and 5 more to take her place right after.
Literally. Yeah.
But as I think another truth is that we all don't know if we're going to be competing after Pyeongchang. We could break our foot. We could get hit by a car. We could die. Right. Anything could happen at any moment. You don't know if you're going to get another Olympics. So I do feel for the athletes. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't know what to make sense of.
And I just, my heart goes out for her specifically because I do, again, even though I'm not like a super fan of her aesthetic, she seems like a nice girl, also I admire her.
A warrior athlete. Someone who's been primed to win.
She's not at the Grand Prix final. She's being a pawn in this total thing, having to go and speak there and do all these things. The press was like completely all over her. She may not get to go to the Olympics if they decide to boycott. This is not a great week for her.
Yeah. It feels like Nadia speaking in front of Ceausescu or Katarina Witt in front of the East German government. It's a little... There's a lot of politics and pawning going on here. I think another thing that I think about is that how much it will impact someone like Medvedeva long term. I think the first time I ever heard about a boycott, I was watching an ABC documentary about gymnastics, and you could see Marcia Frederick maybe about 9 to 10 years later after the Moscow Olympics when the U.S. boycotted, and you could just see the anger and the pain and the residual.
Because you know what, Dave? I don't know who that is.
Okay. Yeah.
And you know what? If she was there, I probably would.
Yeah. So she was a gymnast on the team and boycotted, but she worked her whole life for that and then didn't get to have that experience. So I do feel for the athletes in that sense. The other thing that I have big questions of is that we don't really know what's going on in Russia now. USADA has not been reinstated. This is a country that has not accepted any culpability. They have never admitted that they had a state-sponsored doping program. They said that there were a few bad apples. Well, I think that the evidence shows otherwise, but they do not admit that. So what could be going on now? And I think that's another thing that needs to be investigated. But I think you also have to look at other countries. So
of course, yeah. It's just so interesting. I mean, when I read that second Mark book.
Yes.
And for those who don't know, it was a really good book. Sometimes the books on skating are a little like, ooh. But this was a really good one. And it followed the story of the Chinese pair, the Canadian pair, and the Russian pair. And it's just, I forever remember hearing the incredible story of the Russians, hearing the incredible story about the Chinese. And then you kind of read about the Canadians, and you're like, this seemed so charmed, so easy. And this is
Jamie Saleh worked in a bar. It was
what a tough go they had. And it's sort of this North American privilege in many ways that we don't know how harsh and how incredibly different the atmosphere is for them and the pressure they are under and how much the Olympics represent. So many of, people in America, they're like, the Winter Olympics, that's the boring one. Or, we don't know what's happening or really have an investment. We don't hang our national pride necessarily on our results. And I was just watching the documentary you recommended to me, that Red Army, or...
Red Army, about hockey,
about the Soviet hockey system and all these sorts of things. And I watched all those things back in the day when they would do the Katerina Witt and Nadia Comaneci specials.
Yes.
And the side-by-side one, which I got excited and showed, like, I don't know, my, like, social studies class because my brother was from Romania.
Passion to play. Jonathan, remember when you told me that we learned so much about sports as children, so much about the world through sports. Remember?
Yeah.
You were like, my brother's from Romania, and I was like, wait, your brother is one of those kids from the Orphan City by Ceausescu that they showed at the '96 Olympics. And you were like, Dave, it was really awful. And I'm like, no, Beth Ruyak took us there. Okay, and Gina Goshen, she's the face of the nation, Jonathan. That's...
Yeah. It's, I mean, but this is how we do learn. I mean, a lot of what I learned about East Germany and the Stasi and all, you know, everything with the reunification and the wall came through Katerina Witt's eyes. But it's just fascinating to see how much emphasis is put into what sometimes we in North America just view as, like, I don't know, a bunch of games, you know?
Yeah, the thing is that I think we do have a nationalism in the U.S. that we cannot admit that we don't. There is a big U.S. pride, U.S. winning. No, not being from another country. We also move on to the next thing. Weeks later, we no longer care. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like, if I don't know a sport specifically, yeah, sure, I'll root for, you know, the skeleton guy from Chicago, but I don't view my pride as an American based on Olympic results, and I think that's very different culturally for a lot of other places.
Yeah, and also, we care about you during the Olympics in the U.S. for the Olympics. Maybe. I mean, maybe you get the talk show circuit. If you're really lucky, you get Dancing with the Stars.
Right.
But besides that, no one's going to care about the Shibutanis in 6 months. No one's going to care about many of these skaters. Yeah,
it's just the nature of how we do things over here comparatively.
Now, that's something that's changed over time. Bruce Jenner was a huge star for many years before he became a Kardashian. And yeah.
The first of many transformations.
Yes. But someone that we will be talking about a lot is Ashley Wagner, on a lighter note.
But you know what? This is the perfect, as we were talking about that book. Yeah. Did she break that today, or did she say that yesterday? I can't remember.
She said yesterday, yeah.
It's all a dizzy blur here in Germany. Okay, so the news in the United States Olympic world is she's gone from Moulin Rouge to La La Land, and then meanwhile these other people, their whole world is like collapsing around them in the Olympic, like, and we're talking about La La Land with our skater. It just all seems so trite.
It is trite. I have to tell you, I got so many text messages last night, messages about this, and I was doing the fantasy results and tired after work, and my original reaction was, who cares? Well, and I don't mean that meanly. Yeah. That sounds so dismissive, but essentially, I think it will matter.
Does it matter?
I think at this point, Ashley has been coasting this season, perhaps strategic, what she can do physically, but I don't think it changes her overall medal potential.
Chances, yeah.
Even if the Russians are not there. I don't think it changes her overall medal potential.
Correct. Correct.
Perhaps we can get the retirement bronze that we've seen. I think Christina Bontosh got that in gymnastics once. But I don't think beyond a Bon Voyage bronze medal that it would mean much for her besides the team event and perhaps in the individual. I think that if this makes her happy, this makes her go into the rink and train, and perhaps she could win the U.S. Nationals again, which would be a really big thing for her in her career. I think it'll get her more media attention, which Ashley is always gunning for, and that helps her post-career. The more well-known she is, that'll help her career, and she is someone that will be... I don't think Ashley could coach. I don't think she could choreograph, so I think doing shows is very important, and I think we'll see her as a commentator.
Yeah,
and I think we'll see her as a commentator. So I think for her career, I think that's important. She always gets the attention on herself. She always knows how to do it, and it happens. It's like pathological, and it just...
Well, so I was just curious, again, strategically how people do things.
I think it's good.
Obviously she had the program, so it's not there will now be this whole narrative about it being a new program at nationals. So if anything goes awry, there's a built-in.
It's new-ish. I mean, she had it. She leaves.
Yeah.
Now, is it going to be in its baptismal version that it was in the summer when Jackie Wong saw her do it? I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some Moulin Rouge footwork with some La La Land arm movements. I don't think that I think structurally, I think it'll be very similar to what she's been doing. I don't think that she's going to upend everything, because if you look, she had the ankle problem. She was off the ice for a couple days, just got back on the ice yesterday. She doesn't have that much time. She still has jumps that aren't being rotated. She still has...
which were more the issue than the program.
Yes. I think they were both an issue, but the bigger issue was the jumps. The judges didn't do her any favors artistically, but they didn't push her down artistically. Right. I think this could help her get a little bit more favor back.
She's still that American girl with the PCS.
Yeah. I think that could help her perhaps get a little more PCS. I don't think Ashley's going to go beyond an 8.5 or an 8.75 for PCS at the Olympics, regardless of what she skates to. I think that she could have fallen a little bit towards a low 8 with Moulin Rouge. So I think that this could... But at the end of the day, it could help her... I believe it could help her in her race against Mariah and Brady Tennell. I don't think that it's going to help her against the likes of Medvedeva, Caitlin Osman, Karolina Kostner, Wakaba
Also,
Hamushi.
she's literally just picking her battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of...
I mean, I was just intrigued because... So I wonder if this was always the plan? Or when she just turned on Moulin... I mean, because then there was this whole, canned story about her turning back on the music to Moulin Rouge and re-falling in love with it. And
so, my take, and I'm curious what your take on this is. I don't think this was planned. I think that the season is not going the way she is wanted or hoped or thought would happen, and that she needs to get the energy back. She needed to change something, and it was tail spinning this season, really, I thought, at Skate America.
I remember there was a cartoon called Tailspin. Okay.
Yes.
About a cartoon bear who flew airplanes.
Yes.
Okay. But
after the short program, I thought this season is tail spinning for her. This is really... Gabby Gilman beat her with a fall. I mean, this was not going the way she had hoped. Yeah. What did you think?
Well, so, I mean, it was, you sort of brought this up when we were talking about Alexa also, when they had 2 new programs and they were like, yeah, no, these aren't them. We're going to go back. But then she was like, but maybe we'll do those programs later. And I was like, but you've already decided. But if you've decided to get rid of them, or if it was decided by someone else that you should get rid of them, why would you go back to them? So if it didn't fit, that's my apprehension. If it wasn't clicking and you were kind of, something in your gut told you this isn't it, I'm intrigued why you're sort of still forcing the issue, maybe.
Yeah. Her fans... White women and gays have been like La La Land. Now, I never feel like this music is her. We are going to hear insufferable quotes that she is the girl who dreams. To me, she's not a young ingenue, but it is a good, I guess, bookend to her career that she's still dreaming. At the end of the day, she could end
the... like, I'm still here, or something.
But like, she could... To me, I think of her as a stronger veteran rather than a young ingenue. And that's what I mean by this music doesn't seem like her, but... I think at the end of the day, you look, she's going to end the Olympics. There are going to be tears. It's going to be misty. It'll be just like the Andrea Joyce ones, whether or not. And I imagine it'll be a show. Okay, it'll be a show at the Olympics with La La Land. So perhaps that's a good thing. I mean, I didn't want to have to watch Moulin Rouge anymore either. The reason why I'm not super, yeah, it is what it is for her. I mean, it could be it's a nice little quote. It'll be, the papers the next day, Christine Brennan, if she skates well, will write that Ashley reminded us all about our dreams, whether or not she medals, oh, what a great performance. She has to skate well, she has to stand up the jumps. That's kind of the way I see this going.
And then Christine will include any comment Ashley made about Trump or Russia being banned. Okay.
Now, someone keeps telling me that Trump actually has to sign off on the Olympic team. I don't know if that's true or not. But someone comment below. Phil Hirsch, is this true? Because if you notice, Ashley's not talking about him so much this year. So maybe...
Well, she's trying to remember how La La Land goes.
Yeah. Other thing I wanted to ask you about, Aliona and Bruno announced that they're changing a program.
Going back to last year's short program because
Which one is that?
Bruno wasn't digging the tango. And it's a little too bad because I enjoyed the choreographic potential of their tango. I never quite saw it delivered sharply or effectively.
She was delivering it sharply.
Yeah, well, correct.
She has a very nice dress, too.
It takes two to tango.
When have the programs ever been about Bruno?
Yeah,
I'm just so curious.
Well, he's at least able to do the moves, and the moves did seem just like one step a little too beyond him.
Jonathan, what was their short last year? I can't remember.
I know. Did you notice I just glossed over it the first time you asked because I don't have a recollection of it.
It wasn't the French imitation free dance.
In last season's long at the end. When she was like reaching for the stars, but I don't remember the short.
I mean, it was a work of art.
Clearly,
yeah.
Thomas Kincaid.
Yeah, it was. It's like Boyd's Bears. No, at least it'll give her husband something to draw, which is great because it's mindfulness. When Aliona is stressed about the Olympics, her husband can be drawing, because I do love her. Let's see. What did she skate to last season? Programs with Massot. They skated to That Man.
I don't say the T. I say Massot.
Massot. It's Massot. I messed that up. That Man by Carl Emerald. Don't remember it at all. I remember Lighthouse by Patrick Watson. That was the French imitation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't remember that. I think it had a lot of two-footed throws. Is what I remember about the short.
Ah, yes. Can you narrow it down, Dave?
Yes.
But fortunately, we can be reminded of it this weekend.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited anything she skates to, although I do prefer her skating, and I preferred it with her old partner. I thought...
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
But I still like her. I love her twist with the new partner. Yes. And I love that we see more jumps from her, and I love that she's still with us. So if she needs to find...
She's still with us. It sounds so dramatic. No, but I agree. But speaking of great twists...
Yeah. Gabby Gilman is going back to her old program. We just got word of that from last year. She is getting rid of the gladiator... abomination of a program, and she's going
gladiator by title only, or by costume only, and
apparently she's feeling good about it, so that is good news. Again, if you feel better about another program and it's your rhythm and that's what you want to do, more power to you.
It's replacement therapy. Just give it a
These skaters are stressed. They are stressed and lashing out.
And if things aren't going right, it's interesting that there's been such a common let's just wipe the slate clean, just totally new program. New old program.
You know who seemed a little stressed this season? Alexa Knierim, because she's clapping back at everyone.
Yeah, I know.
What I like,
including
IMG and the USFS. But I have to say, I'm Team Alexa on this.
Yeah.
Why doesn't IMG promote the pairs? Okay, if you want our pairs to do well, you have to give them experience, you have to give them financial incentive to stay in the sport, and because the USFS has this relationship with IMG, they could absolutely put them on the tour. And
also, who's going to a Stars on Ice tour? A lot of times, they're super fans, and super fans would love to go see Chris and Alexa.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally... might be more inclined to go watch Chris and Alexa than Karen Chen.
I would too. But the thing is that Karen is a Yuki client, Nathan Chen is a Yuki client, the Shibs are a Yuki client. Yuki's with IMG. Now, she's not affiliated with the tour, but IMG clients do get a preference for an IMG tour.
But for there to be no pairs, because I feel like a lot of these
and there were no pairs last year.
They're also lacking... that kind of element, if a lot of, let's say, less super fans go, the first thing everyone says when they watch ice dance when they're not super fans are, well, where's the jumps? Where's the throw? Where's the big lift? And you're like, no, that's pairs. Everyone responds to the pairs because there's just a wow factor built into those elements. It does seem like a real...
Do you remember Stars on Ice as a kid? When it was great. I remember...
I went to Champions on... What was with Surya?
That was Champions. But Stars on Ice, when they had the painter costumes the year Sergey died. And I remember it was like the pairs were like Tuffy Huff, and she was sexy, and she was in like the booty shorts, and they were doing all those flirty numbers. And or if you got to see Gordiev and Grinkov.
Mino and Sand were always in those
Sally
things.
and Peltier always stole the show. I think Alexa and Chris just be like, don't jump, just twist. And I think...
And the audience would love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would help their confidence.
In those pressure situations may even help their situation.
And guess what? Since they'd be lucky to even be there, you wouldn't have to pay them as much. Because they're...
And yeah, you're saving because they only need one room because they're married.
You're saving they're married. Yeah, one room. You know, the pairs don't get paid as much as Nathan Chen will or Ashley. Now, they're two... Ashley's no longer with IMG and Jason's no longer with IMG. So there are two skaters who aren't with IMG. So if they made exceptions for them, they could make exceptions for the pairs. Now, they still could be added if you tweet at them and demand to see Alexa and Chris.
It's a weird thing. They have a national championship. They have international... No, they do not have Ashley's... They don't have a world medal.
Neither does Karen.
Neither does Karen. And again, I would just... It seems such a miss to not include an entire discipline, especially when you're going to watch dance, which at an exhibition may not be as thrilling for certain people.
Yeah, remember, so before dance was big, sometimes the dance numbers on Stars on Ice were a little bit of a miss in the past.
Those bathroom breaks. That was when you go get a hot dog or a popcorn or something.
Until Renee Roca came, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. What's she doing? Yeah. She's a character.
That's probably when Karen Walker yelled, "We have dinner reservations."
Yes.
Past her. That was during a dance team, I'm sure of it.
Yeah. Oh, man, Jonathan. But point Alexa. You know what?
Yeah. If you're going to fight everybody, at least this is a good one.
Yeah, maybe. It's not even coming near New York. It's not coming to Newark. So,
but they always make it to Hershey or some random.
They love Hershey. How many people are seeing the show in Hershey? Look.
I was singing in Harrisburg one year, which is 10 minutes.
That's not the same. I got stopped in Harrisburg once when I was on the Greyhound, and it broke down. And
I sang Elijah there, but they were there, but it was during a performance. I was I'm probably the only person in the area who actually would go to that, but I didn't. So
Jonathan, if you're in town, we could go to Allentown and see it. We could visit the Parkettes, and then we could visit,
Dave, I'm doing a holiday concert in Allentown this year. Let's invite the Parkettes.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, Jonathan. Well, we will see you soon because we are going to find out which way this goes with Putin. I am sure this is going to be very interesting overnight as this develops.
It's going to be dramatic, whatever it is.
Yes, I love it. They're all coming out and speaking. Of course, Johnny Weir is supporting Russia. He knows where his bread is buttered, honey. Respect.
I know. I texted my friend, are you signing off? Sorry. No. I texted my friend Vanessa because we were going to live watch it together, and she just kept sending me popcorn emojis because she was ready for the live stream. But okay.
I think that it was... The reactions were as dramatic as we could hope for. But they also said that if there's no Russia team, that their TV broadcast may pull out. So that's interesting.
Oh, yeah. No, I was going to make a joke. I mean, literally, it was network KZBQRLMNOP. I was whoa, I didn't even know that was a network. Okay.
Yeah. Look, if you can't have Tarasova at the Olympics, is it even an Olympics? Jonathan, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there, does it make a sound?
Does it still yell with her headphones and her fur coat?
Yeah. I mean, if there's no... If Russia's not allowed at the Olympics, can we get her commentating on American TV? I would like that.
Yeah. Let's do it. Because she'll share her opinions.
I would like it. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Well, das vidanya. Until we find this out, hold an edge and look sexy. Bye, guys.
Bye.
4'9", you know who. And she does everything the big boys do. Pours it on, nails them cold. Digs down deep and goes for gold. Yeah, golden flakes of toasted wheat. Good and crunchy, not too sweet. Wheaties, Wheaties, that's your style. Now flash, 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 that winning smile.
Watch out, big boys.